In this cyber safety lesson, we're going to explore safety practices associated with Internet of Things or IoT devices. Our lesson objectives are to define IoT devices and provide examples of common devices. We want to be able to recognize potential security risk and privacy concerns related to these devices and describe some key actions we can take to secure them. We'll also want to understand the significance of securing our Wi Fi networks to prevent unauthorized access to our devices and explain how to separate our IoT devices from all of the other devices on our network. We'll spend some time identifying common phishing and social engineering techniques that target IoT users specifically. And finally, we'll evaluate the importance of purchasing our IoT devices from trusted brands that prioritize security. Before starting this lesson, let's pause for just a second to give you time to think about how much you already know about IoT devices and their security. Remember, there's no wrong answer here. The Internet of Things, or IoT, is all about everyday devices, like refrigerators, cars, or thermostats, being connected to the Internet so they can collect, share, and even act on data. These devices have built-in sensors and software that let them collect and share data, and sometimes even make decisions on their own. Take a smart thermostat, for example. It can track the temperature in your home, send that information to the cloud, and then adjust itself automatically to keep things comfy, without you having to lift a finger. It's all about devices talking to each other and making life a little easier and smarter. Whether you realize it or not, you may already be using IoT devices in your home. We've already mentioned smart thermostats like Nest. They can learn your habits and adjust the temperature automatically to save energy and help keep you comfortable. We also often see smart doorbells like Ring. These let you see and talk to whoever's at your door, even if you're not at home. And smart plugs. You can plug in regular appliances like lamps and coffee makers and then use your phone to control them. Fitness trackers. These are all the rage, like Fitbits or Apple Watches. They can keep tabs on your steps, your heart rate, your sleep. And then smart appliances like refrigerators. Some of these can even tell you what's inside, suggest recipes, or even let you check the contents of what you have from your phone while you're at the store. These devices are all part of the IoT world because they connect to the internet and either send or receive information and respond to commands. They often do all of these things all at once. Even though IoT devices are super convenient, they can also be pretty vulnerable if they're not set up or maintained properly. Some of the biggest vulnerabilities are weak passwords, outdated software, and lack of encryption. A lot of smart devices come with default passwords and usernames like admin or 1234. And many people just never change them. Hackers know this and can easily break in if the password is too simple or it hasn't been updated. It's like locking your front door but leaving the key under the doormat. What about outdated software? These devices run on software just like your phone or computer. But unlike phones, IoT devices often don't update automatically, and people just forget to update them. That means that any security flaws that have been discovered don't get patched, and hackers know this and like to exploit these vulnerabilities. And finally, lack of encryption. Encryption obviously scrambles your data so it can't be easily read by anyone who intercepts it. But not all IoT devices use strong encryption, or often any at all, which means that personal information or data that's being sent between your device and the internet can easily be exposed. When IoT devices aren't secure, the risks go way beyond just a glitchy app or a device that's acting weird. Unsecured IoT devices put you at risk for things like data theft, unauthorized surveillance, and even physical harm. A lot of smart devices collect personal information like your name, location, your habits, and even credit card details in some cases. If a hacker gets in, they can steal that data and use it for things like identity theft, scams, or they can sell it on the dark web. What about unauthorized surveillance? Some IoT devices have cameras and microphones like your smart doorbells or baby monitors. If those aren't properly secured, someone could literally spy on you without you even knowing it. Physical harm. This one sounds extreme, but it's possible. Think about smart locks, connected thermostats, or even medical devices like insulin pumps or pacemakers. If someone gains control to these and messes with them, it could lead to real world damage or personal harm. One of the biggest things people worry about with IoT devices is privacy. And honestly, it's a fair concern. A lot of these smart gadgets are designed to collect personal data all the time, whether it's your location, what time you usually get home, or even your voice commands. It's all getting stored somewhere. And the more data they collect, the bigger the risk that something could go wrong, like a privacy breach. Then there's the issue of unauthorized access. If someone hacks into your device, they could get a front row seat to parts of your life that were never meant to be shared, like what you're doing at home, who you're talking to, or what devices you're using. People are also getting more and more uneasy about how companies use their data. Sometimes it's sold to advertisers, sometimes it's shared with third parties, and often it's not super clear if you actually agreed to that. You might have tapped accept on a long privacy policy without realizing what you're signing up for. And finally, there's always the risk of data misuse. Even if the data isn't stored, it can still be used in ways that feel invasive or even unfair, like profiling, behavior tracking, or targeting you with ads that are a little too specific. So while smart devices can definitely make your life easier, it's important to be aware of what information they're collecting, where it's going, and how to protect your privacy as much as possible. If you're using IoT devices, there are a few simple things you can do to help protect your personal data, and they really don't take that much effort. First off, it's a good idea to check and adjust your privacy settings. Most smart devices come with default settings that are just way too open. Taking a few minutes to tweak those can help block unauthorized access and limit how much data your device is collecting. Another smart move is to just regularly review what data your devices are sharing and with whom. A lot of times, apps or devices ask for permission that they don't really need, and over time, you might forget what you've said yes to. Giving those settings a quick look every now and then helps you stay in control of your information. And finally, when you're shopping for a new smart device, go with brands that take privacy seriously. We'll talk more about this later. Some companies are a lot more transparent and respectful about how they handle your data. You want to look for ones that offer strong encryption, regular software updates, and clear privacy policies. It's really all about being a little more intentional. Let's talk about one of the simplest but most important key actions you can take to secure your IoT devices: strong passwords. A lot of smart gadgets come with default passwords that we've already mentioned, like admin or 1234. And guess what? Hackers love this. It's the first thing they're going to try. So when you set up a new IoT device, the very first thing you should do is change the password to something that is strong and unique. You also should not use the same password for all of your devices. Think about it. If one device gets hacked, the others could be at risk too. That's why it's smart to create a different password for each device. Yeah, it sounds like a hassle, but there is a trick to keeping up with all these passwords. Password managers. These are tools that not only create long, complex passwords that are really tough to crack, but they also remember the passwords for you. You don't have to write anything down or try to memorize a bunch of random letters and numbers. The bottom line: strong, unique passwords are your very first line of defense, and it's super easy to manage these if you use the right tools like password managers. Another key action in keeping your IoT devices secure is making sure your firmware is up to date. Firmware is basically the software that runs your device, and just like your phone or computer, IoT gadgets need updates from time to time. These updates often include important security patches, fixes for bugs or other vulnerabilities that hackers can use to break in. If you skip updates, you're basically leaving the door open for someone to take advantage of known issues. By regularly updating your devices, you're staying one step ahead of bad guys and making sure that your tech is running smoothly and securely. Some devices will update automatically, which is awesome, but for the ones that don't, it's a good habit to check for updates every so often, especially for anything that is connected to your home network. A third key action you can take to secure your IoT devices is to disable features you don't need. Not every feature on a device is necessary for everyone, and sometimes leaving them active just increases the chances of a security vulnerability. For example, if your smart device has a feature that lets it connect to other devices you don't use, like Bluetooth or certain remote access options, turning those off can help reduce the potential for cyber threats. The fewer ways the hackers can get in, the safer your device is. It's like locking the doors and windows to your house. Even if you don't use every room, you still want to make sure the access points you don't need are closed off. And honestly, it's really about making your device work better for you. By disabling unnecessary features, you're creating a more personalized and streamlined experience while at the same time making sure your devices are only doing what you need them to do. Let's look at a summary of an article involving solar inverters. Solar inverters are important components in solar energy systems. A solar converter is basically a device that converts direct current or DC electricity, which is what a solar panel generates, to alternating current or AC electricity, which is what the electrical grid uses. Some recent research has uncovered 46 new vulnerabilities in solar inverters from some leading manufacturers. These flaws could let hackers manipulate energy production, disrupt power grids, and access personal data. The root causes include outdated firmware, weak authentication, and unencrypted data flows. These are all things we've talked about. To mitigate these risks, it's really important for manufacturers to issue timely security patches and follow established cybersecurity frameworks. Regulators are also being called on to recognize these devices as critical infrastructure and enforce more stringent security standards. Solar inverters are a good example of an IoT device that you might not have thought about. When you're using IoT devices, securing the devices themselves in the ways that we've talked about is not enough. You also have to think about network security. Network security is super important to keep everything safe. A few of the key things that you need to keep in mind include protection against malicious access. This means that you're setting up strong security protocols to block hackers from getting into your devices. Complex passwords for your network are also important. We've talked about strong passwords for your devices. That same thing applies when protecting your network. And then encryption. This is like putting a lock on your wireless network. By encrypting your data, you're making sure that it's way harder for attackers to intercept or access data while it's being sent through the air. There are some specific steps you should take to secure your wireless network, and they include changing default settings, enabling network encryption, and updating the router firmware. Let's take a look at each of these a little bit more in depth. The first one, change default settings. We know that devices often come with default usernames and passwords, and we've mentioned a couple of times that you need to change both of those when you set up a device, and this includes setting up a new router. You also want to check the default settings for things like remote management. If you're not going to need to access your router remotely, it's a good idea to disable any features like this so that you can reduce your risk. Enabling network encryption. This one is a must. Your router should have the option to enable encryption, which basically is going to lock down the data as it is sent across your network. The most common types of encryption today are WPA2 or WPA3. You always want to choose the newest encryption protocol that you can. If your device supports WPA3, that's what you want to use. Make sure that you're not using an outdated protocol like WEP or wired equivalent privacy. It was developed way back in 1999 and it is outdated and not secure at all. When you've turned encryption on your router, even if someone tries to intercept your Wi-Fi signal, they won't be able to read the data without the encryption key. So it's really like putting a password on your Wi-Fi that only trusted devices can access. And finally, updating your router firmware. Just like with your IoT devices, your router needs regular updates too. Router manufacturers release firmware updates to fix security bugs and improve performance. So make sure that you check for updates every so often. If you're running outdated firmware, it can be risky and might leave your network vulnerable to threats that hackers are already aware of, but that you are not. Now let's talk about network segmentation. Network segmentation might sound a bit technical, but it's actually a really smart way to improve security, especially when you have IoT devices on your network. It basically means splitting up your network into smaller parts, so not everything is connected to everything else. Some of the benefits that we can talk about are enhanced security, threat containment, and access control. When you isolate your IoT devices from your more critical systems like your computers or sensitive files, you reduce the overall attack surface. This means if a hacker manages to break into one of your IoT devices, they're not getting access to your entire network. It's like putting a wall between the smart fridge and your personal bank details. So even if one device gets compromised, the rest of your stuff stays safe. If a security breach does happen, network segmentation helps contain the damage. Rather than a hacker having free reign across your entire network, they're stuck in one isolated segment. This makes it much easier to limit the impact and keep the threat from spreading to other important systems. With segmented networks, you can control who gets access to what. For example, you can ensure that only certain people or devices can access sensitive data or critical systems, while other devices like smart speakers or cameras stay in their own zone where they don't have access to anything that's too private. This helps make sure that sensitive information is only available to the right people and devices. So really, network segmentation is like setting up boundaries in your digital world. It keeps things more secure and limits the impact of any potential hacks and gives you better control of who can access what on your network. When we talk about network segmentation, there are a couple of methods that really help with security and keeping everything organized. Those include VLANs and SSIDs. Think of VLANs like creating separate rooms within your house. Instead of having all of your devices crammed into one big space or your network, you can set up smaller, more secure rooms or subnetworks where only certain devices are allowed to go. This is especially useful when you have a mix of devices like computers, printers, and IoT devices. By using VLANs, you can group your IoT devices into their own VLAN, keeping them isolated from your more sensitive systems. This makes it way harder for hackers to move freely between devices if they manage to break into one, and it also helps with traffic control. You can prioritize important traffic like video calls or file transfers while keeping the IoT devices from hogging your bandwidth. What about SSIDs? An SSID is basically the name of your Wi-Fi network. You can set up multiple SSIDs for different purposes, and this is another great way to segment your network. For example, you could have one SSID for your main devices, like your phone, laptop, and desktop computer, and a separate SSID for your IoT devices, like your smart thermostat, cameras, or smart refrigerator. By doing this, you're essentially keeping your IoT devices on a completely different network from everything else. This isolates them, so even if one of your IoT devices gets compromised, it can't easily spread to your more sensitive devices. Plus, it gives you the ability to set up different security settings for each SSID, depending on what devices are connected. Another good way to secure your IoT devices is by using a guest network. It's like setting up a special Wi-Fi network just for your IoT gadgets while keeping them away from your main network where you store your sensitive stuff. Plus, a guest network minimizes exposure to vulnerabilities. IoT devices can sometimes have security flaws that hackers might try to exploit, so by putting them on a guest network, you're making sure that those vulnerabilities don't have easy access to the more critical parts of your home network. It's a simple step that adds an extra layer of protection, and it keeps your whole network safer from cyber threats. Now let's switch gears and look at some of the common phishing and social engineering techniques that target IoT devices. Social engineering is so effective because it takes advantage of human nature and our emotions rather than relying just on breaking through technical barriers. Hackers like to exploit the fact that people are often more trusting and helpful when interacting with strangers than they probably should be. Some of the reasons that social engineering works so well are trust, emotions, lack of awareness, convenience, and impersonation. With impersonation, attackers can often gather enough personal information either from social media or other public sources to make their approach seem very authentic and credible. So, now we're going to look at some of the specific techniques that are used for IoT devices more in depth. Let's start with fake firmware updates and credential stuffing. With fake firmware updates, imagine getting a notification on your phone or your smart device that says your device needs an update. It looks legitimate. Well, sometimes hackers send out these fake update notifications hoping you'll click on the link and download the update. If you do, it might install malicious software instead of an actual update. Always be cautious about updates and only download them from official sources or directly from the device's settings, not from random links that you might receive through text messages or email. Credential stuffing. This is a sneaky one. This happens when hackers use stolen usernames and password combinations to try and break into your IoT devices. And the kicker is, a lot of people reuse the same login details across multiple devices or accounts. So if your email or social media account gets hacked, the same credentials might work on your IoT devices. Hackers can try those stolen usernames and passwords on things like your smart camera or thermostat. And if they get in, they have full access to these devices. As we've mentioned before, this is why it is so important to use unique passwords for each device. Now let's look at pretexting and vishing. Pretexting is all about impersonation. In this case, an attacker might call or message you pretending to be a legitimate support technician from the company that makes your particular IoT device. They'll often try to convince you that your device has been compromised or needs an urgent update or reconfiguration. Their goal? To get you to hand over sensitive information like your device's login credentials or security keys. They might sound very convincing, even offering technical details to make you trust them. But don't fall for it. No legitimate company will ask you for sensitive information over the phone or via email unless you've contacted them first. Always double check the contact details and call the company directly if you're unsure. Vishing, on the other hand, is basically when someone tries to phish you over the phone. Attackers will call you pretending to be customer support from your device manufacturer or your network provider. They might say there's a problem with your account or that your device needs immediate troubleshooting. And to fix it, they'll ask for personal information or maybe even remote access to your device. If they can convince you to give them access, they could use it to install malware, steal data, or mess with your device in other ways. It's super important to be cautious on the phone, especially if you weren't expecting the call. If someone asks for personal information or access to your device, hang up immediately and call the company directly using the number on their official website. Make sure that you never use the phone number that's simply in an email or a text message. Those phone numbers are also often not real. Finally, let's talk about phishing emails or SMS and IoT device spoofing. Phishing isn't just about sneaky emails anymore. It's also happening through text messages known as smishing. We've all gotten these. Here's how it works. You might receive an email or text message that looks like it's from a trusted source, like the manufacturer of your smart home device, your Wi-Fi provider, or a tech support team. These messages often look very official and may claim that there's an issue with your device or your account. They'll include a link for you to click asking you to log in to fix something. But here's the catch. When you click the link, you're actually being directed to a fake login page that is designed to steal your username and password. If you enter your information on the fake page, then hackers get your credentials and they can then use them to hijack your devices or accounts. Always double check the source before clicking on any links and messages that you received. The best course of action is to not click on any links in either emails or text messages, but instead to go directly to the company's website to log into your account or to use the phone number that is listed there to call and verify any messages that you've received. What about IoT device spoofing? This one's a little trickier. IoT device spoofing happens when an attacker sets up a device or a network component that looks like a legitimate device, like your smart camera or thermostat, but it's actually a fake. They'll then try to trick you into connecting to it, thinking it's a trusted device on your home network. Once you're connected, the attacker can take control of your IoT device, manipulate it, and even steal your data. For example, a hacker could set up a fake Wi-Fi network that looks just like your home's network, and if you connect your IoT device to it, they can potentially hijack it. To stay safe, make sure your IoT devices are connected to the right network and always verify any unfamiliar devices before pairing them with your network. In all of the cases that we've talked about, attackers are playing on trust, either by pretending to be someone you know or by mimicking devices you use daily. The key is to be cautious and to verify any messages that you might receive. In May 2025, the government in the United Kingdom released a report uncovering some serious security flaws in enterprise IoT devices. This study found that many devices, such as IP cameras and voice over IP phones, were running outdated software, some with components that were over 15 years old. When we think about technology, 15 years is a long time. These vulnerabilities could allow attackers to gain full control over devices remotely or install persistent backdoors with physical access. Alarmingly, many devices also were found to operate with root-level access, amplifying potential damage. The report emphasized the need for organizations to adhere to established security standards and regularly update their devices to help minimize these risks. This is just another example from recent news that highlights the vulnerabilities that IoT devices pose. The final objective in this lesson is to look at some key factors to consider when you're ready to purchase an IoT device. First, do your homework and check out what others are saying about the brand. Look at reviews on trusted sites like Amazon or Best Buy, especially focusing on how the brand handles security and privacy. You also want to see how the brand is viewed in the cybersecurity community. Brands that are serious about security will often engage in conversations about it. They'll share updates on their practices, and they're transparent about how they handle your data. Another important factor is long-term support. Choose brands that keep their devices updated and will offer support for several years. Devices that have short life cycles might stop receiving important security updates quickly, which puts you at risk. Also, look for brands that offer responsive customer support. If you run into any issues or security concerns, you want to make sure that you can get help from their customer support quickly. You should look for devices that meet recognized security standards. These are usually brands that have undergone third-party security audits to ensure that their devices are up to snuff when it comes to safety. If a brand has safety certifications, it's a good sign that they take security seriously. A trustworthy brand should also be transparent about how they handle your data privacy. Check if their privacy policies clearly explain what data they collect, how it is stored, and whether it is shared with third parties. Ideally, your data should be anonymized and only kept for as long as necessary and not stored long term. Make sure the brand you are evaluating uses strong encryption to protect both communication and data storage. You want to be sure that any information sent or stored on the device is secure. Also, see if the brand has a track record of releasing timely updates to fix any vulnerabilities. Ideally, the device should support strong, unique passwords for each device, and if possible, multi-factor authentication for extra security. A brand that's serious about security will be transparent about any vulnerabilities found in their devices. They will quickly disclose these issues and work to patch them so you don't have to worry about lingering risk. This kind of openness shows that the brand is committed to keeping your devices safe over time. There are many online resources that can help you evaluate manufacturers and devices. The first place to check is the manufacturer's website. It will give you details on security features, privacy policies, and updates. You should also check security blogs and forums. Blogs and forums are great for giving you independent reviews and real world experiences from other users such as yourself. You can use forums such as Reddit to help you see what others are saying about a particular device. You can check consumer protection agencies like the Federal Trade Commission. These agencies provide information on consumer rights, privacy concerns, and how to spot scams. They sometimes also release reports on the security of popular IoT devices. And finally, you should check third-party vulnerability websites. Two of these websites are CVE, or Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures Database, and NVD, the National Vulnerability Database. These sites and others like them catalog security issues for various devices and provide detailed reports on known vulnerabilities, which can help you understand any risk associated with your particular IoT device. Now that you've reached the end of the lesson, let's pause again to give you time to think about how much you now know about IoT devices and their security. Congratulations, you have now completed this cyber safety lesson brought to you by the Nighthawk Cyber Alliance.